What's going on, friends? Welcome back to Forward Progress, live here on the Forward Progress YouTube channel, part of the Hammer Betting Network and powered by Pinnacle Sportsbook. I'm producer Jason. You can catch me here every Thursday to talk in-depth player props with Hitman, preview the Thursday night football matchup with Eric Eager, as well as taking a look at some Survivor pool picks. By now, guys, you know the drill. Two things before we get started. Hit that like button. If you hit that like button, it gives us a little bit more exposure in the algorithm, and it will show this video to a bunch more new people, and that will help us get more subscribers. And we're trying to get some more subscribers right now because unfortunately Hit the Books is sitting 300 subs ahead of us, and we just cannot take the Joey Kanish noise right now, guys. We're trying to get ahead of that channel. So if you're annoyed with Joey Kanish like I am, smash that sub button. And of course, none of this would be possible without our sponsors over at Pinnacle. Pinnacle is the world's sharpest sports book, offering competitive odds for 25 years. We preach line shopping on this channel, and with everyday competitive odds, Pinnacle should be one of your available outs. If you're looking to support the show, make sure you use code HAMMER when signing up to Pinnacle, your trusted sportsbook for 25 years. Bet smart, bet Pinnacle. Must be 19 plus. In Ontario, please play responsibly, and not available in the US. Guys, today we're doing things a little differently. We're going to have Eric Eager join us here first. Some of you may know him as an NFL influencer. Others will know him as the VP of Sumer Sports. So, Dr. Eric Eager, how's it going, my man?
I'm doing great, Jason. I'm excited for this game, right? I love the fact you're wearing the Calvin Johnson jersey. I know, and frankly, my numbers like Green Bay a little bit tonight. So I'm happy. I hope the trend continues that the jersey you wear continues to be winless. But it's so fun, right? Detroit, it took them all the way until week 18, and then I believe if I'm not mistaken, all the way to week 10 last year to win their third game. They can win their third game in week 4 this year. And then Green Bay, a team that we talked about, a bunch of times on this channel as being undervalued. They're, probably a nice win tonight as an underdog away from being the favorite in this division. So I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun matchup. And I know you like to say it's a pleasure to watch these terrible games, but this is actually a pleasure to watch a game like that's going to be a lot of fun. And I appreciate you dropping that little trend. I think that's the most important trend for most people heading into Thursday night football here. And these jersey choices are not by design. I kind of just picked one out of the closet. I had an Aaron Rodgers jersey. Can't find it. Going with the Calvin Johnson today. So let's just get right into it, though. Before we kind of get into the game, you had a really interesting discussion on the Sumer Sports Show with Thomas Dimitroff here. And I want to get into it a little bit more and kind of pick your brain a little bit because I'm lucky enough to do that. And your discussion kind of covered QB evaluation and if you should be using accuracy metrics versus sack prevention metrics. So earlier this week, I got a text from a friend. It said something along the lines of Jordan Love has the most uncatchable balls thrown, at 31.5%, which is the highest rate in the league. And he has one of the worst completion percentages in the league, right? On the other side of the coin, he has a 3% sack rate, which is top 5 in the NFL. So what do you make of Jordan Love's season so far when looking at these two metrics? And then just in general, your thoughts on Jordan Love.
Yeah, I think the ultimate thing is you should use both. I think that, you want to weigh them. It's funny, the poll I put out yesterday is at 50-50, so It's completely split. My orientation is towards pressure and sack rate, just because it sticks with the player. It's less so. Like, take completion percentage over expected for a second, where Jordan Love is currently not doing particularly well. Mm-hmm. I like to think about, you like the Chiefs. Like, there was a Sunday night game about 3 years ago where Mahomes, for the game-winning touchdown, rolled left and bought time. Travis Kelce opens up with his eyes, wide open throw. Now, even if you're using the tracking data version of that, but even if you use sort of the simple NFL FastStar version of completion percentage over expected, Pat engineered a simple throw. And so the completion percentage over expected is not going to be particularly high because he generated with his eyes and with his movement a throw that had decently expected completion percentage. Now, what we're trying to do with things like CPOE is extract the quarterback's situation from his ability. The problem is when he influences the situation, it becomes a bad metric. And so when I think about completion percentage over expected or things of that nature, I always bristle a little bit at this idea of, well, he's influencing his own situation. So to strip that out is kind of to actually strip out some of the things that are fundamental to that quarterback. And so, CPOE is a good metric, but I don't think it's as illustrative of great quarterback play as avoiding sacks and avoiding pressure, which, Patrick, and even better, which is to say, if you have a low pressure to sack conversion ratio. So if you're under pressure, how often do you take sacks? And when you look at stuff that actually translate from college to pro, accuracy does, but there are more misses with accuracy. Like Justin Fields is terrific at Ohio State in terms of accuracy, hasn't been that way in the pros. But almost all of these guys who take sacks at a high rate or convert pressure to sacks at a high rate, Sam Howell, Justin Fields, guys like that, they almost always do at the NFL level as well. And people think of interceptions as being worse than sacks, and they, sometimes are. But a sack is generally speaking worth -2 points to an offense. And, some interceptions are actually worth less than that as far as negative values as well, especially like third down and long and that kind of thing where you throw a deep pass, it's intercepted. So to me, it's how well the quarterback does at avoiding taking sacks and avoiding, earning pressures, to me is the better quarterback metric, even though accuracy does matter too as well.
Yeah, of course. And I like to think of like Josh Allen when you bring up these kind of scenarios, because again, he the throws he's able to make, a lot of quarterbacks can't make. And it's him rolling out under pressure and being able to avoid the pressure and throwing those throws. But sometimes they end up in interceptions. They're just like mini punts, or I guess big, longer punts. But like another thing with the accuracy as well, Baker Mayfield, notorious in college that he was a very high, had a really great accuracy and didn't really translate as well either. So I really like this conversation that you're having. There's no right answer, and I agree you got to use both. But yeah, I just wanted to pick your mind a little bit more about that. Moving on from there, I mean, if this crew of content creators on the Forward Progress channel, if we had to pick a favorite team, it would without a doubt be the Green Bay Packers, right? So I think a lot of that also has to do though with the belief in Matt LaFleur. G-Stack George has mentioned a couple times this year throughout the some of the videos that he's been doing that he kind of likes LaFleur Coach of the Years. Now, some books have him listed in that 8-1 range, 9-1 range. It will be a challenge to overcome Mike McDaniels. But if there's a buy spot, I'm almost looking at this week to do it, because if this, in the scenario that Mike McDaniels loses to the Bills at the Bills, right, which could happen, there might not be as positive outlook on him in the market. And then on top of that, LaFleur is going up against Dan Campbell, who is has the second highest odds and is one spot ahead of him in this Coach of the Year market. So what are your thoughts on that, kind of this being like a buy spot for Coach of the Year for Matt LaFleur?
Matt LaFleur. Yeah, I think I like LaFleur. I've always have. The one issue that maybe is keeping me from that is that he did do a very public, very strong analytical thing on Sunday, which was to go for 2 when you are down 14 on that initial touchdown. And so a lot of people are giving him his flowers for that. Maybe not as much as people are giving Mike McDaniel his, or people are looking at Josh McDaniels and saying, what the heck did you do on that field goal at the end of that game against the Steelers? It is a buy spot, because if they win, obviously, then you're holding a really good ticket. It's a better buy, for example, than, Green Bay to win that division at the current market odds. And, those things are super correlated. So you might as well go for the one that has the bigger payout. There is a chance that he wins that award without them winning the division as well. Mm-hmm. So there's benefits there. I like that. I think that my only concern is that maybe last week was the week to buy it as opposed to this week, because, they lost a game in Atlanta where we're all like, well, why did they melt down at the end? But I chose to look at that game like they were even in that game without their best players and on the road in a hostile environment. That to me was a sign that Matt LaFleur, even though they lost that game, was punching above his weight class. Last week, you had the injury to Carr and all this stuff. Like, I think it would have been better last week, but I think he's still probably a value this week for Coach of the Year.
All right. I like that. And then also I appreciate Capwise and Insight in the comments, dropping some knowledge here. If you're in audio form and you're listening to it on podcast, come over to the YouTube channel. You can see the chat afterwards. Let's get into the game itself, though. There's been a lot of movement this week, not like massive movement, but like just kind of fluctuation between the 2.5, and the 1 here for the Detroit Lions. Opened up as a 2, got all the way down as the 1. But then as limits started increasing and as more injury news came out, it looks like we went up to 2.5, then back down to a 2 again. So we went 2, 1, 2.5, 2. Sitting right now, I think it's around a 2. Best price in market is Pinnacle -2, -103 here for the Lions. What do you make of this market move? Like, did you have a correct read on the market like coming into this week? And then also like with the injury announcements, do you think the market is going the right way?
I think the market is going in the right way. Now, that being said, like if I still make the game around Detroit like minus a half, or Detroit, a little bit, just a little bit favored, not as favored as they are. Now, the problem is, you're basically going to have to look at Green Bay money line, because 1 and 2 are not necessarily worth it in as much in today's NFL, as far as, as much as I would just simply take the money line in a situation like that. It certainly does depend upon what price you're getting for both. The thing for me is the Tom Pelissero report kind of showed kind of the magnitude in both directions, right? When he came out and said Decker and Montgomery matters less, but Decker, for example, he was out and Emmanuel Mosley was in, and then he switched that. You could sort of see how the market reacted to it a little bit. And I think that some of the wild swings were due to the uncertainty there as well. So that's kind of my point. I think I agree with the move because I think Taylor Decker matters to the game here. But getting Christian Watson and getting Aaron Jones back, to me, like I think that, if you go straight off of power ratings the last few weeks, like I don't know if Green Bay was being properly valued initially in the market. And so even though the moves, in my opinion, were in the right direction, they sort of started from the wrong point.
Okay, I like that. And then sticking with the market here, let's talk a little bit about the total. Not as much movement here, but it kind of flicked up to the 46, started open at 45.5, flicked up to 46, and now it's all the way back down to a 44.5 minus 109 over at Pinnacle, to the over, obviously. And I mean, market is at 45. To me, I might be wrong here, but these seem like two higher paced teams. And I was kind of thinking that the total might be a little bit higher than this. Am I wrong in thinking that? I don't have the stats to back that up. Just from watching these two teams play, they feel higher pace. What are your thoughts on the total here in this game and the pace of play?
Yeah, they are. And the thing is like the Packers took a ton of under money the first 2 weeks of the season and went over. Then last week that game went under, I think mercifully. But they didn't score in the first 3 quarters. I don't think it was because of pace. It was because of efficiency. Now you get Jones, you get Watson. I think the big thing in the NFL right now is you're going to have to ask, if you want to bet this over, what kind of coverages are the Lions going to play? The Lions are actually, when you look at Christian Watson, like he's going to be the thing that generates the over. Big plays to him. The problem is like the modern defense just simply doesn't allow that as much anymore. I wrote the article for Sumer Sports last week, which said, you look at like drive success, so the percentage of plays that go from a first down to another first down, or the success rate, so the percentage of plays that get positive expected points. Those numbers are down a little this year relative to other years that are higher scoring, but it's about the same. EPA is down. And even with, and so what you're really seeing is defenses are optimized to stop big plays, but not necessarily optimized to stop play for play efficiency. Now you'd think that that'd be good for the over, but the thing is like what the worst thing that you can have for an over is a team being efficient enough to get to like midfield and punt, because then, that's going to basically lead to long drives without scores. You need big plays. I think both these teams are capable of big plays, but I also think that both teams are trying their best. And you saw this with Kansas City opening night as well. They're trying their best to avoid those. And Detroit, to their credit, when you talk about defensively, held Kansas City to 20 points, held Atlanta Falcons to 6 points. They've actually been better defensively than I expected.
Yeah. And I want to bring up a note you mentioned there, and it's about that article, and that's kind of been sticking in my head the last 2 weeks since you wrote that article. It's a great read. Go check out sumersports.com if you're interested in it. Just talking about how essentially it seems like more of a dink and dunk NFL than a big play NFL, and that's the trend we're in right now. And this brings me to something that I played today, and I kind of like it. It's the Luke Musgrave over 3.5 receptions over at Pinnacle Best Price in Market plus 132 here. I mean, what are your thoughts on that play in general? I liked it. I wanted to bring it up to you. I wanted you to either roast me for it or like telling me that you like it. I see the connection that they have together. A couple drops from Luke Musgrave in week 1 and 2, but I mean, I liked it. I thought maybe it was a little mispriced in the sense that Christian Watson comes back and all the other receivers' receptions kind of tick down a bit. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't hate it. I think also Watson just being able to when you think about like how route combinations work, right? You have the deep threat that'll take the safeties, turn the safeties backs to the tight end, and then the tight end kind of comes in underneath It will depend on pace because like those are shot plays, right? When you play action and then throw the crosser, but I don't mind that at all. I mean, he's Sam Laporta is the better tight end, but Luke Musgrave is the more explosive guy. I would also look to his yards because the thing with Laporta is, it's not Laporta, sorry, Musgrave. If you look at Musgrave, like I think Musgrave is going to make a bigger play too. So you look at like kind of longest reception odds, you look at yardage odds. To me, I think that could even be a better play than receptions. But yeah, I'm bullish on him just because of the way in which Watson is going to be able to kind of change the complexion of what Detroit is able to do to Green Bay.
Yeah, I like that. And I like that you mentioned those two tight ends here. And I wanted to bring up tight ends because we talked about some first TD bets before we hopped on the show here. Just out of curiosity, are these, I should have asked you before, but are you going to make these official plays tracked on the BetSave HQ, or are these just your gun to your head plays?
Yeah, like I mean, 10th of a unit, right? Like let's go with those two. So I like Josiah DeGuara, the sort of tight end fullback kind of hybrid out of Cincinnati at current price. I haven't looked at the screen in a few minutes since I was in
100 to 1 is best price for me. I can find it very widely available. So like almost everywhere is 100 to 1. So I mean, I'm okay locking that in for a 10th of a unit here.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then also I think that Brock Wright, if I believe he's healthy this week. If it's not, obviously it gets voided. Brock Wright at a similar price there to score a first touchdown. He's a guy that, again, if you're looking at Laporta after last week's big game, he might get that extra. Like let's say they get to the 1 yard line and run a play action fake. Maybe Laporta gets all the attention. Brock Wright kind of crosses his face and ends up with a touchdown. We can all rejoice over that. So.
I mean, I don't know if it will top the Olamide Zaccheaus first touchdown, but I mean, hey, I like those.
That was a draft pick of my co-host on the Sumer Sports Show. He drafted him with the Falcons. I believe. I believe he was a Falcons pick.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right there. But honestly, you would know more than me based on trivia history. But one more best bet for you. We're looking at Jared Goff. What do you like here?
Yeah, this was so. Admittingly, I sent this through when I thought Taylor Decker was out because when you look at Jared Goff splits, right? Pressure, no pressure. As good as he's been the last few years, a lot of that interception streak is because that offensive line in front of them has played tremendous football. And so I'll probably only go a half a unit on this, but I do like Goff over interceptions. I think it's better than a coin flip that he'll throw one. No, Jair Alexander being injured, hurts that a bit. But Rashawn Gary last week had 3 sacks in his return. Look, Penei Sewell and Taylor Decker are amazing. I think that Rashawn Gary could beat them. Even, he doesn't need a backup tackle to have a great game rushing the passer. Devontae Wyatt's been good over the past few games. They have Ken Clark, obviously. I like Green Bay's defense in terms of being able to pressure Goff. And the other thing is, like, I know the weather is supposed to be okay tonight, but like Goff is also just like an indoor quarterback. And so, I know he won there last year, but you watch that game in week 18, there was a lot of knucklers at the beginning and all this stuff. So I'm just going to, and I'm a big Goff fan. I think he runs that offense well, but if you're going to give me better than even money on an interception happening by him in this game, I'll take that.
And I see best price in market right now is like 115. Market's around 110 here, so you can kind of get that at plus money, better than even money here. Last thing we want to get into is our survivor picks. Listen, dude, the Jags, I was watching them. What the heck is going on here? But we lost 2. We're 1 remaining. We're a little bit behind the 8 ball here. Our first 3 picks were Washington, San Fran, Seattle for this entry. I mean, what are we going with here? This is kind of a not so great week. I was thinking kind of KC. Just looking at
the KC has the Christmas Day, the games, as does Dallas on Thanksgiving. So those are 2 big spreads that I would have preferred. Honestly, though, I mean, at this point in the thing, when you only have 1 left, it's all about the utility. Like, is your utility to win? Just kind of keep playing and have fun, or is your utility to try to win when you're at 1 entry left? Here's a sneaky one for me. They don't have their future value actually isn't that bad, but I do just love this matchup this week. Possible backup quarterback as well. I'll call them, for the sake of this segment, I'll call them the Los Angeles Chargers. I like them at home against the Raiders. Now, one thing you do have to worry about is you don't like to pick road teams for Survivor, and I always think like Ice Cube's friends love the LA Raiders back in the day. There are going to be a lot of Raiders fans in Los Angeles for this game, so it might not necessarily be a true home game, but that's one that I like as far as It doesn't sort of tie you up for the future. And it's a game that I do think they'll comfortably win. Minnesota's another thought as well. Like, if you're not going to use Minnesota here on the road, it's tough. But if you're not going to use Minnesota here, a team that the market has loved all week, right? That thing look ahead was 2.5. Now we're talking about 4.5 in a lot of places. If you're not going to use Minnesota here, they play Kansas City next week. They could start 1-4, right? So
Yeah.
Even if they win, and from there you're thinking about, do they trade Kirk Cousins to the Jets? Do they do all this other kind of stuff? So Minnesota's one where I don't know if there's a ton of future value on the Vikings. You look at their division; they do get Chicago twice, but they always struggle with Chicago. At least ATS and a lot of times in Soldier Field. Green Bay and Detroit are better than them. So that's another one where I'll pick San Diego this week, but I think Minnesota is also a good one.
I like that, locking in San Diego here. And of course, I do this every time before we head out, Eric. One more thing, your prediction for tonight's game.
Yeah, I don't think the wrong team's favored, but I do. So I think Detroit should be favored, but I think that I'm going to go with Green Bay. I would, Green Bay money line to me feels like one of the first times on a Thursday night that I've really felt convicted about a team winning and covering on a Thursday night game. So I like Green Bay here, even though I've spent the last 18 months restoring the roar.
I love it. Bring back the green. I don't know. What was the one we came up for the Green Bay Packers? I can't remember.
All you need is love. I think if they win tonight, I might just hashtag love wins. I might do something silly like that, which would be fun. But no, this is a game. It's so funny. I grew up in Minnesota. I grew up hating the Packers. And now I just simply don't anymore. And that was like the sign that I was not, my dad's a Vikings fan. I'm not. And like, that was just a sign that but I like both of these. I'm going to be happy with any outcome tonight, just in general. But I do think market wise, Green Bay is a slightly better play than Detroit.
I love it, Eric. Again, thank you so much for your time. You can find Eric Eager over at Sumer Sports. You can find him on the Sumer Sports Show, and you can find him on the Hammer HQ tonight. Eric, have a good rest of your day. I'll talk to you later.
Jason, this has been fun. See you soon.
See ya. All right, that was Eric Eager, VP of Sumer Sports, guys. And again, I mentioned this tonight at 8:00. Rob Pizzola, alongside Kanish, Feinberg, and Eric Eager, will be doing a live watch along on the Hammer HQ channel. Just head over to YouTube, type in the Hammer HQ. You'll find our channel. Ring that bell to be notified when we go live. We go live at 8 p.m. Eastern. And joining us right now is a guy we had a lot of fun with last week on the watch along there. Hitman, professional sports bettor. Hitman, how's it going, my man?
Nice to be on. A little different time slot, but nice to talk to you again.
Yeah, and I'm a little frustrated right now because in our chat we were talking a little bit before, and I said -150 Hitman being in the car after I saw the shift in time slot. So I guess I owe you like a lunch or something, or a pizza, because that was a terrible line on my part.
No, I got a quick 9 in this morning.
Okay.
9 holes, and then
Nice.
I went to a few books to get a few things and made it back in time. So the ultimate grind today.
I love it. You always got to get the golf in, but just don't let the wives know, right? Because then you'll get some complaints. Anyways, for those who don't get it, you're going to want to watch the replay on the Hammer HQ. And Insights asking if you guys will be ordering pizza tonight. I don't know. Rob is always sitting there on his phone for 2 hours saying, should I order? Should I not order? I don't know. Anyways, let's get into the game here. This is an interesting one because feels like there's a lot of injuries. I mean, on Green Bay's side, we have Jones and Watson who are looking to come back, but word is that they might play in a limited capacity. We have Bakhtiari, Campbell, Jenkins, Jair Alexander, all kind of doubtful. And then the rest of the injuries for Green Bay that are already like guys on IR. On the other side, we have Decker and Montgomery who are probable, and then Emmanuel Mosley who looks to make his debut tonight. Then Vaitai and Nelson, both doubtful. Guard Jonah Jackson, also questionable. Cluster O-line injuries across the board, some DB injuries. As a bettor, how do you look to attack like when injury news happens like this, and not the obvious injury news of where, hey, Christian Watson's going to play, let's bet Romeo Dubes unders, or, Jalen Reed's unders, those kinds of things. How do you look to attack these injuries that aren't really players? Yeah, go ahead.
I think the big thing to do is to look into, just use logic and try to look into, Twitter is an amazing tool. I don't know what my life would be without Twitter, to be honest. And it's because there's just so much information on it in one place. So for me, It's about trying to find information from beat reporters, from Twitter doctors, like anything, just anything I could find to just keep adding information is helpful. So, for example, like on one of the injury situations tonight is the David Montgomery returning. I tend to lean towards his over right now. Not something I've bet yet, but just something I'm leaning towards. And I'm just searching as much stuff as I can find. David Montgomery, is there any quotes about what his usage might be? How healthy do some medical people think that he could be? And again, you're never going to get 100% accurate answers, because even like somebody like a medical guy on Twitter, they're not examining the player. They're just guessing, but they're taking an educated guess, and it just keeps adding information to myself. So that's kind of how I handle it. And tonight, I mean, it's not going to be a game that I'm going to give really many picks at all, because I just think that so much of it, this game tonight, is about injuries, whether it's Aaron Jones and that backfield, it's Christian Watson and that receiving core, or it's David Montgomery with the Lions running back situation.
Yeah, it seems like it's a very wait and see kind of approach right here to props for this Thursday night football game. First thing I want to get into with the actual props itself. So I want to talk about the quarterbacks, because I love Jordan Love. I love Jared Goff, excuse me. And Eric right here in the chat brought up a great question. Hitman, thoughts on Goff under 256.5 yards at -120. Is there any quarterback props you're looking at, whether it be their passing yards, completions, or even interceptions?
If you have access to that number, Jared Goff, it would be a play of mine. So, okay. That number isn't as widely available, I believe. But at that specific number, whoever asked that, I would bet that.
Well, right now, Jared Goff passing yards on Pinnacle, it's 255.5 right now, -123. It's little.
Okay, that's bettable also on Pinnacle. Okay. Again, Pinnacle has a better line than some other places in the market right now. So get those Pinnacle accounts. Some other places in the market are low 250s, high 240s. In this specific case, I would bet that. Yes.
Okay. Is that enough to lock it in right now on the show? Or,
yes. Yeah? Lock it in. Yeah.
Full unit.
Jared Goff is definitely, the Lions have run the ball way more than people expected. Their pass rate over expectation has been pretty low this year. So I think that is worth a bet.
Okay, I'm going to drop.
It's a little thin. It's a little thinner. That's why I won't go to the low 250s, high 240s. Me personally, I grabbed 257.5 a little earlier in the week. But yeah, that 255.5 is worth it.
Tons of sharp chatters in the chat right now. Eric was also able to get that 257.5. He was just asking, and listen, we appreciate that. Eric, guys, don't forget, if you want to drop a comment in the chat below, you got to be subscribed. So smash that subscribe button, hit that like button. It really helps to support the show. And we want to beat Joey Kanish. So come on, let's do it together, guys. So I'm going to lock it in half unit right now. Is that you good with a half unit here?
Or you can go full on Goff at that number.
Yeah. We're going to go full unit under 255.5 passing yards. Find that at Pinnacle at -123 here. Now let's get into the other guys we were talking about with the injuries. I mean, Aaron Jones is back, confirmed in. And in my opinion, I think that's a massive upgrade for the Green Bay Packers. I don't know if people have missed the Green Bay Packers games. A.J. Dillon has literally negative juice. He looks horrible. I'd be looking at Dillon yardage totals right now on the under. I just don't think he's that good of a running back, but I can't see anything right now. Right now, Aaron Jones is at 46.5 rushing yards at Pinnacle. Are you looking to attack this backfield? Are you waiting for more information? Are you looking to attack the backups, or like you mentioned before, kind of just staying off it?
Yeah, waiting for some more. I got some stuff in mind with this backfield, but I'm just kind of waiting on, to be honest, I'm waiting on a little bit more availability on it. So yeah, for the Packers backfield, let's hold off on that one. Any other questions? I'm good.
All right. I won't try and reveal anything there, but it was mentioned earlier that I believe on Twitter that Aaron Jones might see limited usage. We're kind of unsure exactly how he's going to be used here. The books seem a little confident posting a line here. And Vinny Torres, before I get into the next question.
Detroit's run defense has been, I'll add this, Detroit's run defense has been really good this year as well. But
I can tell you want something and you don't want to save it before you give it out on a show. So maybe follow him on Twitter.
I'm waiting for some more liquidity on some stuff to be honest. But anything else, I'm good on.
Fair enough. Let's move off this quickly. But before we get into the next question, Vinny Torres asked if there's a bet stamp profile for the picks on the show. Yes, it's Forward Progress HQ. If you look in the top, I believe this corner right here, Forward Progress HQ, spelt exactly like that. It's the same as our Twitter handle. Search it on Betstamp. You can find us there. All our picks from this channel are tracked on that Betstamp page. Anything we give out here is all tracked. So if you're looking for it right here, top right corner, top left corner, I'm not sure what side it is for you guys, but for me, it's the top left corner. So anyways, let's keep going here and let's look on the other side of the ball. Hopefully I'm not giving anything away here from you with talking about the Lions running backs. I mean, last week, Jahmyr Gibbs week, had a ton of usage, but with the first 2 weeks when Montgomery was in, he was the guy getting the ball. Do you think that continues this week with Montgomery being back in and healthy?
I could see myself being on a Montgomery over. I haven't bet it yet, but I could see it happening. I'm not betting it right now. It's just kind of one of those things that I just mentioned earlier that you just want to stay on Twitter, try to find some news and information. It could be something could push me towards Montgomery because if he was fully healthy, this line's probably high 50s. So we are getting a discount right now with him around 50.5 rushing yards. And from what I've heard, I don't think that the injury was as big of a I think they were kind of saving him for this week, and it shouldn't impact him that much. So I would call Montgomery a strong lean right now. It could be something that I bet, to be honest, but it's just something. Again, the big benefit that you have as a bettor is you're laying juice -110, -115, which obviously is in the book's favor. But the big benefit you have is you have the ability to pass a game, and they have to put every single bet on the board. So for me, I think that the Montgomery thing is a wait and see, but I would lean towards the over right now. That's a direction I'd be thinking about.
And I think the bookmakers are kind of have that same sentiment as you, because Pinnacle 50.5 right now rushing yards for David Montgomery. The over is at -139. So they're leaning there. I think they also, like you, want to get a little more information or at least deter people from taking that over by having a line posted like that. Let's get into a couple questions from the chatters over here. I mean, the chat's been going off lately, and we appreciate you guys doing so. Sign Collectibles is asking, I almost said Equanimous. Amon-Ra St. Brown, longest reception, under 23.5. If we can get the price in there, it'd be very helpful. I'm not sure. I'll try and take a look quickly at what the price is right now. Longest reception at 23.5. The under is around 110, 150, between 110 and 120 in market. What are your thoughts on that play?
Is it really 23.5? That's I'm surprised. Yeah, it is. It seems like a high number for him, to be honest. I really don't. I will have longest. Maybe I'll have like 2 or 3 longest reception plays a week, and typically it's based off like a narrative more than it is me running numbers on it. I just don't have time to handicap every single category, and that's one that the liquidity is usually not enough to where I don't pay enough attention to it as I could. But just off the top of my head, I again, with no great feeling on what it should be, just thinking logically, Green Bay's been a bit of a run funnel, and he's also dealing with the turf toe still, even though he looked pretty good last week. So just spitballing here, I would lean towards the under on that.
All right, sounds good. And then we have another one, receiving yards as under 15.5. We're going to stick with the Lions pass catcher here. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that's the second question I've seen on Marvin Jones. And one of the reasons is I gave out Marvin Jones under 2 weeks in a row. Okay. And you know that it's a great bet when both weeks I got asked, hey, did Marvin Jones play a snap? Because he had a 0 on the box score for both games. I was just talking to a partner about it, and we were like, you know what? If it would have opened high teens, I would have bet it again. He still did get like a third of the snaps last week. So he hasn't been completely phased out. And Josh Reynolds, we don't know if he's 100%. If I was confident that Josh Reynolds is 100%, I would play that under again. But Reynolds only played like 2/3 of the snaps last week because of the groin injury. Now it's a short week. I can only play Marvin Jones under, but it's not something that I've bet yet, although I was considering it right before I came on.
All right, sounds good. Holt, that is your answer from the Hitman right here. Sticking with pass catchers, though, on the other side of the ball, let's take a look at Green Bay. We got Christian Watson coming back, and it looks like all their receivers are kind of around the 35.5 receiving yard range up until 40.5 between the three receivers. Is there any that you're looking at right now? I mean, like for me, Christian Watson, I like Christian Watson a lot. I think he has that big play ability and might be able to clear his yardage total on one play. But with the injury, it's kind of making me hesitant. Are you kind of in that same boat?
Yeah, if I was to play anything with Watson, it would be over receiving yards or over longest reception, because Jordan Love has the longest average depth of target in the league, and Watson is their big play guy. I haven't bet anything, though. Green Bay historically is very conservative with guys coming back from injuries. So there's reports about the snap count. Personally, it's a pass right now. But another thing, I mean, my mind could be changed by some reports. But as of right now, it's a pass. I did see in the chat, somebody asked about Wicks, under 16.5 receiving yards, minus 120. I personally played, and I like better under 4.5 receptions. I got that at like minus 115 the other day. I see that there is at least one minus 140 in market. That I would play, but it's more of like a rogue line, and it's also kind of the borderline of where I'd go to. And the under 16.5 receiving yards at 120, call it a strong lean, I would say.
Yeah, and keep these questions coming in the chat. Hey man, I apologize because I'm throwing you completely off the track here, because we have like a little run sheet beforehand, and I don't think I've asked a single question. Because
listen, I could talk props all day, man. Keep it coming. Like, I'm happy to answer anything.
So you heard the man, guys. Drop any more questions you have in the chat. We have one more. It looks like one more from Capwise, just on Wicks again, 1.5 receptions. Your thought on the over?
Yeah, that's the better play, but it kind of 140 was the cutoff. It's moved a lot since I bet it since the other day, and 140 is kind of a rogue number. But shop it on BetStamp, see who has what. But that would be my cutoff.
All right, and then we're getting so many questions in the chat. I love it. I'm just gonna keep going. Justin Siegloff at. If I pronounce your name incorrectly, just make sure you write it in the comment section down there how to properly pronounce it. But Justin's asking, is there any value in Reed first touchdown at 22-1?
I mean, you know me. I'm no fun. Everybody talks about the first touchdown, and I'm the guy that I'm like, well, wouldn't the anytime touchdown have value? A first touchdown has value, so shouldn't we bet the anytime touchdown? Like, how do I know if it's going to be the first touchdown? If anytime. Yeah. That's me. I'm zero fun, so whatever. But just off the top of my head, I'd say no, just because Reed is due to maybe lose some snaps or volume touches because of Watson coming back. So it'd probably be a no.
Fair enough. And to be completely transparent here, I actually did play that. I had a boost on another sports book. So I played that with my little boost. So that's what I love to do with my boost. I'm wrong with it, but I'm sometimes, when you go into the games, you just want a little bit of first TD action. So a couple more here in the chat, a couple more in the chat before we get out, because we can't have you here all day, unfortunately. But thoughts on Aiden Hutchinson over the half sack at plus 125?
Not my market. That I handicap.
You're not really.
I mean, I guess I get the narrative that Green Bay's missing 2 starters in their offensive line. So if you're monitoring these markets and you think that it's not fully adjusted for that loss, then maybe go ahead and fire. But I really don't monitor the markets that much, so I really don't have a great idea on what the price typically is.
Fair enough. And we mentioned it earlier in this little preview here. We talked about Jordan Love's ability to escape pressure and to not get sacked, 3% sack rate here. So maybe, I don't know, maybe you might want to lean off that. But then again, the front side faces has not faced a guy like Aiden Hutchinson. Couple more questions in the chat before we do this. I think we're going to go with 2 more questions. But before we do that, guys, smash the like button. There's only 25 likes and 93 people watching, guys. We're not going to be able to beat Joey Knish if it stays like this. So get those likes up. I really appreciate it. Last question for you, Hitman. Thoughts on Love rushing yards, either side? What are your thoughts on Jordan Love?
Yeah, the over's been taking money. I think that the over's probably the look if I was to bet something. Detroit's a man coverage heavy defense. So typically that lets up to more rushing yards. And I know Detroit has been bad against mobile quarterbacks. So I'll give you this then. Off that thought, you're going to force me to take the first touchdown thing. Whatever Jordan Love is, that's who I'll go for it on the first touchdown thing. Because, again, Detroit just tends to be more vulnerable to these mobile quarterbacks.
Okay.
And Love over rush yards has been taking steam. So that would be my first touchdown forced.
All right. So I usually, for those who don't know, I usually force Hitman to take a first touchdown here. It's a gun to the head thing, not like he's playing it. We don't recommend playing it here unless they're tracked on our bet stamp. We don't recommend playing that, but best price in market is 25-1 here. So we got the first touchdown out of the way, Hitman. 2 more questions for you before you head out here. Any props you have an eye on for Sunday, and unofficial prediction for tonight's game?
Green Bay wins. I have some Green Bay futures, NFC North, big game. And it's the way I would look at it from everybody that watches the Hammer. It's the world versus Knish tonight. All right. I know on the Hammer show, on a lot of the Hammer shows, so many of us have given out Green Bay division. So if you've been listening and following, you should have Green Bay division. So it's us against Knish tonight. Let's get the W. And I don't have anything right now for the Sunday props, but I remember 2 weeks ago, I didn't have anything. I gave you a future. It was the Jets under 8.5 wins, -150. That's off to a very good start. Let me give you another one. I like the Chicago Bears under 5.5 wins. You can find it in the -150, -160 range if you shop around a few places. I made it 4.5. So obviously with the juice attached to it, the market's saying it should be 5. I think it should be 4.5. Chicago Bears under 5.5 wins.
All right, Hitman. I appreciate it. Good luck on your bets tonight. It's always a pleasure doing the show with you. Have a good one.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
All right, see you, Hitman. That was Hitman, pro sports better. Guy loves his props. Always good with that stuff. Guys, what a fun show it was today. Remember, before you head out here, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to beat Joey Knish. I can't have this guy in my ear anymore. I'm serious, guys. Like, I cannot have this guy in our ear anymore. In our group chats, he just keeps yipping and yapping. I'm just tired of it. So hit that like button, smash that subscribe button. If you're listening to this in audio form, come over to the YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button. Okay. We appreciate it. Thank you to each and every one of you tuning in right now. Before we head out here, reminder, tomorrow live at 2 p.m. Eastern, I will be back again live alongside John Legeza from The Athletic and Jack Miller from Established to the Run. No Matthew Freeman this week. He's away from the show, but he will be back next week. We're talking player props. We're talking TD scores. We're talking injury fallouts from the Friday practice report. You do not want to miss this show, guys. So for myself, for Eric Eager, for Hitman, this has been Forward Progress, powered by Pinnacle on the Hammer Betting Network. Guys, good luck on your bets, and we will catch you guys later. See ya.